The first week of November is in the books, and the question is, Mike, have you beaten that reading funk? Well, let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike coming back at you with another weekly update. The week that was and the week that will be. Lots of cool things to talk about this week. Last week, you might have heard that I said I was suffering a little bit of a reading slump. And while I think I'm coming towards the end of that, I think it's just on time because, there is kind of a big release coming out soon. But let's kick this off, guys, as we always do and talk about what am I reading. I finished the Time of Courage, the last book set within John Gwynn's The Banished Lands. And since I won't be doing an individual review for this, because like I said, I feel like at the time you're at like a book 7, you're just saying the same things over and over again. I'm going to say good series, but guys, it is light years behind Faithful and the Fallen. Now, let me explain before you freak out. I still think that you should read this series if you've read Faithful and the Fallen and you love it. If you're on the edge about that. I feel like if this series was set somewhere other than The Banished Lands, I'd probably be raving about it right now. But right now, it feels like, hey, do you remember the 1987 LA Lakers, how awesome they were? Yeah, well, we're going to make a documentary about the bench players. That's kind of what this feels like. It feels like I never connected with these characters quite as much as I connected with the characters in Faithful and the Fallen. And that's not due to lack of character work by Mr. Gwynn. You guys know I think he's brilliant at this. He does that fine. You're just always comparing to the group that came before. And that was such a tight-knit group. It's really hard to crack into that. So I feel like if this had been a series set somewhere else, I probably would say it's one of the best modern fantasy series I've read. But you can't go into it and not compare it to Faithful and the Fallen. And I think that's kind of a detriment to it. Very satisfying ending. Very good series. Not saying it's not a recommend. It's not a very good book. I'm just saying, as compared to Faithful and the Fallen, it's a step down. It really is. So I'm glad that his next series, he actually came up with its new name now. I can't remember. It was Bloodsworn, but I think the book's called something else now. Anyhow, I'm glad that that is actually taking place out of the Banished Lands. I am very sad to see the Banished Lands go. Don't get me wrong at all. It's one of my favorite modern fantasy stories ever. It really is. All 7 books together. I just loved Faithful and the Fallen, and I really, really enjoyed this one. Does that make sense? So, I mean, you're talking about comparing it to one of the best that I've read. So that is kind of the honest opinion of this, because I know that a lot of people thought I was suffering from recency bias when I said that John Gwynn's one of my favorite authors working right now. Still is, and I will read everything that the man puts out from this day forward. So I do recommend the series, but I did say you're not going to like it as much as Faithful and the Fallen, most likely. But I think that most people expect that. So I definitely think that you should read it if you are interested. I should finish up Fires of Vengeance this weekend. I think I've got maybe 100 pages left, if that. I wanted to make sure that I had it done in time to do my review sometime next week. But like I said, I kind of kept slow rolling it. And then I was like, okay, I want to finish The Banished Lands. Did hit that little bit of a reading funk. And that kind of takes me into what am I going to read? Yes, I think I'm coming out of it. But here's the thing is, like I said, I didn't want to push it before Rhythm of War came out. I think I said that last week, so I don't want to repeat myself. But I am going to be starting Tyrant's Throne. That's the last book in the Greatcoats for the channel read-along. I think everybody's already got a good head start on it except for me. Like I said, this little slump felt like I'm kind of coming through it here, and I'm going to pick that up. But the result is that I had to drop Kings of the Wild off of the list for November. I kind of had to move it back into December sometime. So sorry about that. If you are looking forward to that, it's still going to happen. It's just going to be after Rhythm of War, not before Rhythm of War. Speaking of Rhythm of War, I'm probably going to focus on reading those sample chapters. I think I'm on 13. There should be 19 by the time that the book is out. So I'll spend the week after I finish, hopefully after I finish Tyrant's Throne. I imagine I'll have a few days before Rhythm of War drops, and I'll kind of read those and be ready to start with chapter 20 on day 1, so I can feel like I'm staying pace with everybody else. Is probably going to binge read or binge listen to it in the first day. And then obviously we'll be wrapping it up with the rest of November by talking about and reading Rhythm of War. That's obviously the big one. So that'll be a fun little Thanksgiving treat, I believe. Let's go ahead and talk about this week on the channel. We went ahead and wrapped up Fright Fest 2020 by talking about Clive Barker's Weave World. I think I got a lot of interesting conversation there, and a lot of people agreed with the criticisms I had. And I think I interested a lot of people by saying it was kind of like Dark Tower Light, that really kind of got their attention. I think that's a very fair description of it, and his writing style is just absolutely wonderful. So I'm definitely looking forward to more Clive Barker in 2021. Did my review for Saint's Blood. That is Great Coats number 3. Wanted to make sure I got that review out before I started book 4. I like to do that so I don't have any kind of overlap or did that happen in this book or that book kind of thing. So yeah, it was kind of a mixed review on that one, and I think that most people kind of agree. I thought it was very divisive, but it seems like a lot of people had the same complaints I have. But a lot of people on the read along that have already started book 4 are saying, okay, this feels back to the way that we were, where book 3 just kind of felt like a diversion. Went ahead and wrapped up the month of October, which, as we all know by now, was all horror. Yes, the expectations were low, and the results were about that same results, really. It was about what I expected, really. I kind of had a hope that it was going to bring in a lot of new visitors to the channel. Not really so much. It's about the same average as far as growth goes, things like that. But hey, I'm not sad that I did it. I wanted to really give horror the platform that it deserved by talking about it, and hopefully it brought in some of the constant watchers that got you guys to give the genre a little bit of a try. I did my spoiler talk for The Trouble with Peace. That's something I wanted to do like when it was still new. I just kind of ran out of time before Fright Fest started. So that and the last different season story, The Breathing Method. I'll probably be doing that here rather soon. But I wanted to make sure I just because they fell off the schedule that they don't just fall into oblivion. I still wanted to do them. So I wanted to do the spoiler talk for The Trouble with Peace. I'm just still really sad that so many of you guys that subscribe to this channel still haven't read First Law, or haven't even started the second trilogy, because it's just such an awesome series. I wish more of you guys would give it a try. I really, really do. And then I talked about yesterday, just real briefly, I talked about my plans, how I plan to cover the Rhythm of War on the channel. I presented that to people to see if they thought that would be so much of an overkill, talking about, making a video for each part or act for the book, and that sounds like as a resounding no. We would appreciate that. So there's definitely, since Stormlight books are basically like 3 or 4 books in one, I don't think it will be an overabundance, but I just wanted to make sure that people weren't just feeling like, okay, look, I'm not current on Stormlight Archive, so I don't care about that much coverage for a new book. But most people, it seems, are, and I think this is the biggest release we've had since this channel started. So I want to make sure that I give it the attention that it deserves, and if that was something that people want me to do, because they always said that those spoiler talk videos for the Stormlight Archive weren't long enough. And like I said, I felt like 30 minutes was plenty, but yeah, apparently not. Apparently people want me to talk for like 3 hours about each of these books. So if I do these presumably 5 parts of Rhythm of War, I imagine it's going to be about that length. So we shall see, guys. We are really, really close to that release. Let's talk about a little bit of next week's plans. I'm going to do my book haul for October. I think that will be an interesting one because not so much that I went and spent any money on anything in October, but have you guys noticed that, like, I've started constant watchers, have you noticed that, like, there's a lot less front-facing books now? It's because I'm running out of room again. Very, very generous people this month have sent me things, and I want to make sure that I give them a proper thank you publicly, so I'll be doing that book haul next week sometimes to talk about all the amazing things that people sent me over the course of this month. Very, very generous, and I cannot say thank you enough, but I want to make sure that I give the proper recognition to each one of those viewers that sent me things, because you guys are awesome. I'll probably be talking about my Rhythm of War wish list early next week, Monday, Tuesday, I think, probably something like that. It was something that I said I would probably put out like the week before. I want to make sure I give it, a good, week, 10 days, 8 days or something like that to breathe before the thing comes out, because I want to hear you guys' wish list too. I want to know the things that you guys either think will happen or things that you want to happen in Rhythm of War. So if you guys are sick of Rhythm of War, I'm sorry. It's going to be kind of a dominating topic here for the next month. And then I'll be doing my review for Fires of Vengeance before that release comes out. So I want to make sure that I actually finish reading that this weekend. So like I said, I think I'm coming out of that slump here. So things are looking up. So that's it, guys, for books. Got a few TV and movie talk things to do here. The Mandalorian is back, and it's great. I'm loving it. I feel like everything that I liked about Season 1 is still there. Everything I didn't like, I feel like they fixed, except that Rocky theme. I still can't deal with that Rocky theme, but the rest of it, the aesthetic, the feel, the dialogue, the names, everything. Just it really feels like it belongs in Star Wars. And thank God that Favreau and Filoni realize that fans aren't the enemy, and they're making a good show. I'm just so pleased with it. I can't describe how much joy the premiere episode gave me. It was just one of the coolest things. I feel like it's the best portrayal of Tatooine since the very first movie. It's just so much cool stuff. I'm not going to get into spoilers here. There's some big wow moments, some things I'm obviously kind of iffy on. I feel like relying so much on original trilogy characters is keeping the series from moving forward at all. And I'm here for the nostalgia. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate new characters. I appreciate nods. But I still feel like this is a big galaxy, right? And I mean, all we're going to deal with is these same characters. So that's my criticism. I feel like it's kind of leaning on that a little too heavily. But I feel like the new characters that they've introduced are excellent, and returning characters are just as good. So I'm having a great time. Whole family, it's like a family event for us on Friday nights after dinner. I love it. I'm not much for the, I'm a binge watcher. But I feel like the fact that we've made this like a family event, because all of us in the house love Star Wars, it's made it kind of fun to have a weekly show that we can watch again. Now it's just about dodging spoilers the first half of Friday, because people love to talk about it. But it's I don't understand why people think it's like reinventing the wheel to have weekly shows. I mean, that's just kind of the way that most of us grew up with weekly television shows. But hey, if people feel like that's something fresh and new to them, okay. I don't think it's like genius or nothing, but it's obviously working for them. I do think the viewership is a tad bit down. I think that's just because most shows usually go down. They don't usually go up unless they explode like Game of Thrones did. It seems like most shows usually seem to gradually reduce viewership. And also when you're on a streaming platform, you don't know how many people were like, yeah, I don't need another streaming platform. So I think that plays into it a little bit. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the numbers of that there. A little movie thing here. Johnny Depp dropped out of Fantastic Beasts 3 because of all his legal battles going on right now. Won't touch really on that or whatever. I will say, though, that I felt like Fantastic Beasts 2 kind of jumped the shark a little bit, so I don't think anybody even really cares anymore. That's really a matter of opinion. I was very excited for that. I think when you have a movie called The Crimes of Grindelwald, and then you have like no Grindelwald in your movie because Johnny Depp was like a hot button issue at the time, I think that was a big mistake. So yeah, I think that they really dropped the ball on that, and some of the writing problems in that was just like, yeah, you just completely like undermine so much stuff in your story. But J.K. Rowling's been doing that for years. She's been trying to George Lucas her series for a while now, so it's not really surprising. But my interest in Fantastic Beasts 3, and that was before this. It's not just because of Johnny Depp. That doesn't move the needle for me one way or the other. I mean, sure, or I'd like to see more of Grindelwald, but yeah, it's just I felt like so many things in that second movie were so just bad choices that I'm not really even interested in this. So we'll see what happens there. A little bit of a sad thing here. I don't usually talk about celebrity deaths or anything like that because I try to keep this stuff positive, but I got to give a rest in power to Mr. Sean Connery, my personal favorite James Bond of all time. I mean, growing up, yes, Roger Moore was my 007. And then when I started watching the older movies, I was like, well, I mean, who was a cooler cat than Sean Connery as 007, right? So big James Bond fan. And just when I went through and watched them all when they released them all on Blu-ray again, and Sean Connery was just head and shoulders the best. I know a lot of people like the new stuff. You just can't compare with Connery, in my opinion. And it's just sad. I mean, the guy lived a full life. Don't get me wrong here, but still, it sucks when you lose one of the greatest to ever do. It's always something that you want to give a memoriam to. And also, a quick little music thing here. I didn't talk about it before, but I gotta say another rest in power to Mr. Eddie Van Halen, arguably the greatest guitar player of all time. I mean, my generation, we didn't grow up not dreaming to be able to play a guitar like that. I mean, still to the day, most of us in my age bracket are going to air guitar to eruption, right? So it's just 2020 has just been the worst, man. Just can't get into how sucky this year has been on just so many levels. And some that I'll talk about, some that I won't. But it's just a shame. To lose such two big icons from my childhood in the same, within like a week of each other. It's just, the hits just keep coming, guys. But flip on your Van Halen records, put on some James Bond 007 with Connery. And just remember the good times, I say, because they'll always be there. It's just like I say with like books, when they adapt a book, And you always say it's okay they didn't take your book away from you. Just because, these two legends have left us doesn't mean we don't still have the music to listen to. Doesn't mean we don't still have the movies to watch. So, they will live on forever in that medium. And that makes me, just want to celebrate their lives more than mourn them. But it is still very, very sad. I want to close this with some gaming talk because you guys know I can't help but dunk on the console wars, people. So, hey, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X comes out sometime next week. Are you guys excited? Are you ready to not be able to buy it? Like I've said for a while now, I don't understand the console wars, people. Play what makes you happy. I don't understand brand loyalty whatsoever unless you work for them or you have stock in their company. I don't get that at all. Maybe that's just the business major in me. I have no idea. For me, as a consumer, I hate begging businesses to take my money. And every single time one of these consoles has come out, since the N64, I've been doing this for 25 years now, every single time a console comes out, oh, we didn't anticipate demand, we didn't know that this many people wanted it, so we don't have enough. False scarcity is one of the biggest cons in all of marketing, and they just keep doing it because people keep falling for it. I never buy a console at launch, thank God, because you can't buy one, because I always feel like the launch lineups are always just kind of crummy. And the systems always just have so many bugs and problems like that. I always wait for the first price point break. And even if then, only if they have like a good lineup of games. Because if not, you'll buy a game at launch and you'll buy like 4 or 5 games that you would never buy regularly just so you have something to play. So I see a lot of people excited about it. And it's like, yeah, sure, I'm excited for Assassin's Creed Valhalla and things like that. You know what? I'm going to play them on PC. So it's not a big deal to me. But yeah, I see people already talking about going and camping out to buy a console, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. So you guys just keep on letting them do this to you, I guess. What can I do about it? You know what? Like I say, do what makes you happy. I just don't understand why people buy this crap every single time there's a new console release. But there it is, guys. That is the week that we had here. What did you do? What do you listen to? What are you watching? What are you playing, guys? What are you reading? Hit me in the comments, guys, and have a great, great weekend.